The time has finally come to review the movie that kicked off one of the greatest sagas of all time.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Lucamus Prime here, so it is time for a brand new movie review today in a new series of reviews I'm going to be doing for a franchise, and this is going to be for the first movie of one of the greatest movie sagas of all time in a shared universe franchise based on Marvel Comics. And this is a review I've been long awaiting to do and to talk about this movie, guys. And as you probably guessed by the cold opening of this video and from my figure with me and from the title of the video on the thumbnail, the review today is going to be for none other than, of course, what is the first movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is 2008's Iron Man, directed, of course, by Jon Favreau, and which is from a screenplay by the writing teams of Mark Fergus and Hawk Osby and Matt Arkham and Matt Holloway. So, now, when it comes to how this movie was made, guys, so this film was in development at Universal Pictures 20th Century Fox and New Line Cinemas at various times since 1990, before Marvel Studios reacquired the rights in 2005. So, Jon Favreau signed on as director in April 2006, and he faced opposition from Marvel when he was trying to cast, of course, Robert Downey Jr. in the role of Iron Man, and he was signed on in September of that year. Filming took place from March to June 2007, primarily in California, to differentiate the film from numerous other superhero stories that say New York City-esque environments. And during filming, of course, as well, the actors were also free to create their own dialogue because pre-production was focused on story and action. And the Iron Man armor itself, of course, was also created by Stan Winston's company, may Stan rest in peace, mixed with CGI to create the title character. The film premiered in Sydney on April 14, 2008, and was released in the United States on May 2nd, being, of course, the first film in Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film grossed $585 million, becoming the 8th highest grossing film of 2008. The film received praise from critics, especially for Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, as well as Jon Favreau's direction, with visual effects, action sequences, and writing. And it was selected by the American and State Film Institute as one of the 10 best films of 2008, and received 2 nominations at the 81st Academy Awards for Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects, and was selected in 2022 for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. When it comes to my reaction to this film, guys, so I first saw this movie a long time ago when it came on television one day. I thought I'd give it a watch, of course, to get into the Marvel franchise, and when I watched this movie, guys, I absolutely loved it from start to finish. It's one of my favourite superhero movies of all time, and it's definitely one of my favourites in the whole MCU as a whole, in my opinion. It's also one of my favourite MCU film, which is like a solo film for one hero, or not like a group of heroes, if you get what I mean as well. Yeah, I definitely really love this movie. So, when it comes to what the movie is about, so in this movie, following the escape from captivity by a terrorist group, world-famous industrialist and master engineer Tony Stark builds a mechanized suit of armor and becomes the superhero Iron Man. Nice. And of course, as well, he's fighting evil as well, which of course is later revealed to be one of his own business associates. So, when it comes to, of course, what I think is great about a movie, so now, one thing I definitely got to talk about, of course, is definitely the cast. The film has a really amazing cast of actors, and one particular actor, of course, I've got to give high praise to is, of course, none other than Iron Man himself, played by Robert Downey Jr. And so, Robert Downey Jr., in my opinion, was a perfect casting for the role of Iron Man, and I don't imagine anyone on playing the role better than him. In my opinion, he was born to be Iron Man, and he totally embodies everything about Iron Man, in my opinion. yeah, in my opinion, a perfect casting, and in this film, he did a really great job playing him. Jon Favreau definitely did the right thing casting him as Iron Man, indeed, absolutely. And he did a really great job in this movie as Iron Man, and he would continue to play later on into the MCU. And it's mainly thanks to this film that Iron Man became my favourite Avenger, and I'd grow to love him a lot more down the line. And without Iron Man, guys, we wouldn't have this franchise. So yeah, thanks to Iron Man, of course, we got, of course, this whole amazing franchise. So yeah. In addition as well, another honourable mention I've also got to give when it comes to a cast is also probably the film's villain, of course, which is none other than Obadiah Stane himself, who would later go on to become, of course, the Ironmonger. Played, of course, by Jeff Bridges, and Jeff Bridges, in my opinion, was also an example of a perfect casting for a role. He definitely did a great job, of course, playing what appears to be Obadiah's good side at the start. But then, of course, it's later revealed, of course, that he's the bad guy, of course, in this, and he plays part really well. And I can consider to be my third favourite role of Jeff Bridges behind his roles in The Big Lebowski and Crazy Hearts. And I think he played him really well in this movie. Really well. And he's definitely my favourite Ironmonger of all time as well, guys, because I think he did a great job playing him. And so yeah, I think he was a great casting for a role. And I definitely as well love the Ironmonger design. The design for Ironmonger was really cool and very well made, in my opinion, in this. And the effects of it were really good as well, which I'll get to later on, of course, when I talk all the great things about a movie. I also definitely like the addition of Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts in this, who is Stark's personal assistant and his love interest. And I think she played a part really well, and that's my favourite role of Gwyneth Paltrow, Pepper is. And she played a part very well, in my opinion. And I definitely loved her relationship with Tony as the MCU progresses. We have great developments as characters, in my opinion, and very well handled. And this film was definitely a great start, of course, for her making her first appearance. And I also like the addition of Terrence Howard as James Rhodes, of course, who is a friend of Tony and the liaison between Stark Industries and the United States Air Force. I think he played him very, very well, despite this being his only appearance in the role, because later on he'd get recast with Don Cheadle in the role, of course. And but Terrence Howard was definitely a great choice for a role. Although my favourite role of Terrence Howard is probably his role in Prison as well, the movie. So, but he was still really good in this as James Rhodes, in my opinion. And in addition to that, I also like the addition of Leslie Bibb as Christine Everhart as well, who's of course the reporter of Vanity Fair in this movie. I thought she was good what she was given as Christine. I also definitely a love addition of Sean Toob as Ho Yinsen, who is Stark's fellow captive in this movie. And he was definitely, of course, a great addition. And he's, of course, the character who helps Tony create his first suit of armour in this. And I gotta say that him telling Tony not to waste his life it definitely hits differently when you rewatch a movie after you've seen the whole MCU, like me, because after I, of course, saw the whole MCU and I rewatched this movie last night for this review, yeah, I think Yinsen's quad definitely hits different now when I think about the whole MCU. Iron Man definitely didn't waste his life at all, because he had a great life in the MCU. There's other good supporting characters in this as well. So this movie introduces is an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, which is Agent Phil Coulson, played, of course, by Clark Gregg. And he would have gone to appear in several more movies in the MCU, of course. And Coulson is definitely a very likeable character, guys, and played, of course, brilliantly by Clark Gregg. And what's interesting, of course, is that he's actually credited for the MCU. He's not appeared before in anything else, like comics or anything like that. But yeah, Clark Gregg plays Coulson really well, a very likeable character. And as a fun fact, guys, Clark Gregg is also the actor with more screen time in the MCU, if you want to count television shows, because he, of course, will go on to play Coulson in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television series. So yeah, which is pretty cool that he came back for that show. And also as well, Paul Bettany also provides the voice of Tony Stark's AI called Jarvis. And that's probably my favourite role of Paul Bettany, because Jarvis is a very likeable assistant, even though he's only AI. And when it comes to cameos in a movie as well, there is also a cameo appearance as well by the legendary Stan Lee, may rest in peace, who appears as himself at a party, and is a pretty funny cameo because Tony mistakes him for Hugh Hefner, which was definitely pretty funny. So yeah, and of course, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Yeah, Stan Lee is an absolute legend, and And without him, we wouldn't have many of these iconic characters in Marvel, because he, of course, as well, was responsible for co-creating Iron Man, of course. And yeah, without Stan Lee, we wouldn't have many of these iconic characters in Marvel. So yeah, rest in peace, Stan Lee. I miss him to this day, since he passed away a few years ago in 2018. 10 years after this movie, sadly, as well. And I also as well definitely like the addition of Jon Favreau, the director of the movie, appearing as Happy Hogan, who is, of course, Tony Stark's bodyguard and chauffeur. He was very good in this, and he'd gone to appear in later films in MCU. Other great things besides the cast is also, though, definitely, in my opinion, the visual effects. The visual effects for this movie are brilliant, in my opinion, and for its time. Like, it really amazes me how well the CGI for this film has aged. Really amazes me how well it's aged. Like, because when you watch a movie, you know, it never gets old, in my opinion. The visual effects are really impressive. Not kidding. Like, you know, the CGI looks very realistic in many shots and all that. It's very impressive what we did with the visual effects in this. So the movie does hold up to this day, and it's definitely timeless, in my opinion. It's aged really well. Also, yeah, and the visual effects, we did a really great job with it. And of course, Industrial Light and Magic as well did the bulk of the effects as well. And they definitely did a great job with this. And apparently as well, Robert Downey Jr. also as well did the filming wearing a motion capture suit. He only wore the helmet, it's of course, but his sleeves and chest were over a motion capture suit, which was very cool filming. Really cool. Other great things as well is, I definitely like the story of this. Now, what I also really appreciate about this film is, while it is of course the start of a new franchise, of a shared universe, I love how the focus is on the main character of Iron Man himself, and they don't focus on like other characters and all that, or trying to set up a shared universe. I love how the focus is on Iron Man himself, the title character. They don't focus on setting up a shared universe, which I really appreciate about this movie a lot. There has been, you know, some examples of, like, bad films I've seen which have been trying to set up a shared universe. For example, another Marvel film being The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And also, as well, of course, into the animated territory, Scoob, which was also trash, in my opinion. And then, of course, when it comes to, you know, like, the supernatural or, like, horror territory as well, that 2017 Mummy movie with Tom Cruise, that film was also trash, in my opinion. Just trying to set up a dark universe, which went horribly wrong. Like, I tried to set up before it even started, and that failed miserably. This film, however, did not, because it focused on Iron Man himself, and the story was great. Because it introduced Iron Man, it showed how he built his suit while in captivity and escaping. And it also does a great job in introducing us to a villain in the movie as well. Ironmonger is definitely one of my favourite MCU villains of all time, but obviously, for all guys, my favourite MCU villain always will be Thanos. No one, in my opinion, is better than Thanos when it comes to MCU villains, in my opinion. But Ironmonger is definitely a great villain. Jeff Bridges nailed it, in my opinion, as Ironmonger. And it really surprised me, guys, he's not been cast as Lex Luthor and anything, because I think after seeing this film, he'd be a perfect casting for the role of Lex Luthor in DC, in my opinion. I also, as well, love the fight scenes in this. The fight scenes are nothing short of awesome in this movie, but they're really fun to watch. And with great visual effects for a time as well. And another great thing as well about this is also, in my opinion, the musical score as well, which is composed by Ramin Djawadi. He's, in my opinion, a very underrated composer who's composed for great music, and this is definitely no exception. I love how he used a mix of different instruments in the soundtrack for this movie. Like, I love the music that plays when Iron Man's flying, and also in the final fight with Ironmonger, and just all over, really. Great music. And he's done, you know, great music for other things too. Like, I think my favourite soundtrack he's ever composed, guys, is probably his score for Game of Thrones, the series. And he's composed other great films too as well, like Pacific Rim, for example. And also as well, he's even as well done it for a show called The Strain, which I've also saw. That show wasn't that good, in my opinion, but his music was one of the few best parts of it, in my opinion. Nonetheless. But this music, in my opinion, was still amazing. He did a really great job composing the music for it. And yeah, it was definitely, you know, great to listen to in this. Really great. And as well as Ramin Djawadi's music as well, I also definitely love Black Sabbath's music in this, of course, especially their song of Iron Man. Yeah, I definitely love that song. I definitely feel really well in this movie, yeah. The music in this was definitely awesome to listen to. So, yeah. And also as well, other great things as well is, besides of course the visual effects and music and the cast, is also as well, now when it comes to actually doing the setups for a shared universe, The film, of course, does it via the inclusion of Coulson because he's part of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's, of course, going to be hinting towards the inclusion of S.H.I.E.L.D. in this. And after that as well, when it comes to setting up a shared universe, the film also has a very exciting end credit scene as well, guys, where at the end of the movie, Tony returns to his mansion in Malibu, in California, and when he enters it, he finds, of course, someone waiting for him, of course, which is the S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Nick Fury, who is played, of course, by the legendary Samuel L. Jackson, one of my favourite actors of all time. And he tells him that Iron Man is not the only superhero in the world, and he's here to discuss the Avenger Initiative. And that's definitely a very exciting setup right there. That's just how you set up a shared universe right there. And it's also really cool that they casted Jackson in the role because, as a fun fact, guys, his likeness was actually used for the design for Nick Fury in the Ultimate Marvel Comics version of him. So, and he gave his permission for him to use that likeness in the comics. And so I love how he actually got to play him in live action. That was just brilliant in my opinion. And Nick Fury is definitely one of my favourite roles of all time from Samuel L. Jackson as well, in my opinion. He's just an amazing actor and really cool. And in this film, he gave a great performance in his first appearance in the franchise, which is very exciting. And also as well, I like how this film also does something different to avoid being similar to other superhero movies. So I like how, of course, they film scenes in California rather than in New York style areas, because they're trying to make it different to other superhero films which have been set in New York, like Spider-Man, for example. Because this film, of course, came out a year after Spider-Man 3, of course. And I also as well like how at the end of the movie, Iron Man, of course, decides not to hide his identity when he's being interviewed at a conference. I like how he decided to reveal who he really was by saying, "I am Iron Man." And of course, as a fun fact, guys, that was an ad-lib, of course, by Downey Jr., and they decided to keep it in to avoid being similar to other super movies before. So I like how they did that, really. It's pretty cool it was an ad-lib, though. Like, imagine if they kept the original line in. So yeah, this is definitely, in my opinion, a great movie. Definitely, in my opinion, just how you start a shared universe. And it's definitely a film that I really appreciate because, as you guys may know, I am happily done with the MCU because I stopped watching it after I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, and because I'm not like the direction the MCU's been going in recent times, especially in what's happening in this year's content for them. And seeing what's happened, it makes me really miss Iron Man as a character, and, you know, the amazing characters introduced in the Infinity Saga, who I like, of course. But rewatching this movie definitely made you know, further cementing my love for Iron Man being my favourite Avenger of all time. And also as well, I definitely really miss him, and rewatching the movie, you know, made me miss him a lot more. So yeah, the MCU, in my opinion, is just not the same anymore without Iron Man or the other great characters it's introduced in Infinity Saga as first phases. So yeah. Nonetheless, guys, to this day, I still absolutely love Iron Man. It's one of my favourite superhero movies of all time, and probably my third favourite MCU movie behind, of course, Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. And yeah, definitely he as well a great start to this amazing franchise of Infinity Saga. So yeah. So guys, this is me reviewing 2008's movie of Iron Man. Definitely a great movie, and if you wonder what I'd give a movie out of 10, well, just like in a ranking video I did back in early 2021, then to this day, guys, I give Iron Man 2008 a full-blown 10 out of 10. Definitely an amazing movie. Without this movie, we wouldn't have the MCU. So yeah, that's why I really appreciate and love this movie to this day. So yeah, amazing movie. So guys, this is me doing my review for 2008 Iron Man. I'm directed by Jon Favreau. I'm the start of the MCU. So, you know, drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think of Iron Man 2008. If you've seen it, let me comment what you think of it, what you guys think of it. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe in this coming future. If you would like to be a member, you can be using a piece of that, or you can little subscription. And I love you 3000.